Welcome back to another episode of the Career Capital Collective podcast. Today, I am joined by Lauren Chisholm, a VP at Vena, a Toronto-based AI-powered FP&A platform, and a brand new mom. Lauren's journey is an example of what it means to build success on your own terms. She started at her company nearly a decade ago as a business development rep and has worked her way up the corporate ladder and is now a VP of Global Account Management. In 2023, she was recognized as one of the top 100 global sales leaders for her strategic insights and contributions to the field. And most recently, she became a mom and is now balancing motherhood with a high-stakes career in tech. So, Lauren, I'm so happy that you're here joining us. So, welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. Love that intro. You nailed the mouthful there. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I would love for you to take us back to the beginning, who you were before working in tech, and what drew you to the industry in the first place.
I actually grew up in Calgary and I went to Queen's University in Ontario and did not expect myself to land in tech. I had initially, upon graduating, thought I would eventually go to law school, and I actually fell into tech, honestly, because I was broke. I needed a job and I needed to work for some time to save up money for, in my head, what I thought was going back to law school. So I fell into a tech role. I ended up really liking it. And here we are 10 years later.
Wow. So was it the first company that you started with? And is it pronounced Vena? Is that how you pronounce
Vena.
it?
Vena is actually the second company I was at. So the first company I was at was a really small startup. It got me, I would say, the job at Vena because it got me access to working in software. So that kind of hooked me into software. And then Vena, I started a couple of years after that.
Okay, got it. And curious about that decision to not, say, go to law school and to just stay in tech. What was kind of the reason behind that?
A couple things. It's interesting now being a mom because I think a lot of lawyers I talk to, female lawyers I talked to who had kids, talked about how impossible it was. And I don't know now, having perspective, it kind of feels like all jobs are hard if you have kids.
Yes.
But part of it was that. And then also I ended up really enjoying software. And I think I realized I'm highly motivated by a commission-based salary as well. So that was really exciting, being in a sales role. And software in general just kind of has a buzz. It's a buzzy industry. It's exciting to be a part of. So I think once I got a taste, it was almost like, why am I going to law school? Because I feel like I should. I don't actually really want to.
Yeah. That totally makes sense. I'm curious with the jobs that are always say a low base with a high commission. Did you kind of just love that it was uncapped commissions that you can make more? My thought is you could probably make more doing that than as a lawyer, depending on kind of how well you do in sales.
Yeah, I honestly, I think in university, no one talks about sales as a career. And I had no idea the money you could make doing a sales role. So I think, my second job, which was, where I am now, Vena, 10 years ago, starting at Vena and kind of seeing you're really in control of your income. And if you work hard and you meet your targets, you're getting directly compensated for it. So I found that highly, highly motivating, especially as someone coming out of university. I didn't, was financially independent and really needed to make money living in Toronto on my own. It was extremely motivating for me. And I think it also helped me build my career quickly because you do well and, then you get access to do more things, and it does help you build your career.
Totally. So you came in as a business development rep. It sounds like you started there. And then did you at some point become a manager and take on more responsibility? How did that progression look like?
Yeah, I kind of joke that I feel like I've done every single sales job that exists at our company. I worked my way from BDR to account exec, and then I sort of worked my way through leadership on our business development side of the house. So became a team lead on our business development team, and then manager, senior manager, and eventually director. And then I became director of our global business development team. So that's where my leadership journey started. And then in 2020, I moved into full cycle sales. So business development was very much, cold calling, opening the door, booking meetings. And then in 2020, I launched a new sales team within our existing org to a new segment that Vena was focusing on. So I started that completely from the ground up, brought over, 6 of our top performing BDRs and started that team in 2020, and then grew that segment. And then just recently, when I came back from work, I kind of fell back into that role as VP of sales of our commercial sales team. And then in March, I just moved into our VP of account management, which is our customer side of the house. So this is a massive change for me. After 10 years on the sales side, I'm now moving into managing our customer base.
Wow. I feel like your experience in sales is probably just so helpful because you know what the customer wants and, like, how to sell the product.
Yeah, 100%. I think you work so closely with customers on the sales side. It's just different. When you get to the customer side, it's a completely different relationship you have with them. But yeah, and honestly being at the company for 10 years, the industry has changed so much, the product has changed so much. So seeing all the iterations we've gone through, it's funny like coming to the customer side and seeing customers I sold like 6 years ago as an account exec. So the experience is really valuable coming into this role.
I bet. And how many people are on your team that you're currently managing?
There is about 40.
Wow.
Yeah, 5
Wow.
direct, and then they all have their own unique teams.
Good for you. I always thought that the transition from being like an individual contributor to a people manager is so tough because a lot of people are promoted and don't necessarily have people management skills. How did you like bridge that gap to learn to manage people as opposed to just like working at your own P&L and kind of like your own sales process?
Yeah, it is a journey. And it's actually something now leading leaders. It's one of the biggest
Okay.
challenges I see is when you move from an individual contributor to a leader, you can't just train people to be like you. And that's a struggle because it's usually the top performers who are moving into leadership roles, right? Some aren't interested, but becoming a leader, you really have to learn how to manage different personalities, different strengths, and teach those people how to do well with their strengths, not yours. You can't just say like do things my way. It really doesn't work. And I tried. It doesn't work. So that piece is very challenging and I think I learned through experience through doing it wrong a couple of times and then through seeing like this isn't something that's, you know, it's not possible. You can't make someone change their personality. So naturally, I think it comes over time with like leading a lot of different personality types and seeing what works and what doesn't, and then also learning from, my leaders and my managers.
And what do you think has been like one of the hardest stretches of your career? Like one, I guess, like a challenge that you've had to push through and just had to like keep going and figuring it out.
Yeah, there's a couple. I think I'm kind of in one right now, which I can get into, but I think
Mhm.
historically, starting that sales team in January 2020,
Mhm.
moving into a completely new role, starting with a junior team, first time account execs. I was a first time full cycle sales leader. And then pandemic hitting 2 months later. And, we weren't set up to work remote. Like, I had no idea how to train an account exec virtually. I was training them by going into a room with them, muting myself on a conference call and saying, "Ask them this question, position it this way." Everything was live. So, having to pivot really quickly to make that work, and then also just dealing with everyone, going through a pandemic's hard and being a leader through that, steering the ship. Staying optimistic, staying focused. Yeah, I think I'm also in one now. I think back to that time, like, it was very challenging from a professional perspective, but my life wasn't as chaotic. And I think now, you know, I'm in this place where I've taken on a massively challenging role. I've got a toddler who, seems to get sent home from daycare every other week with a new illness, which then I've got a new illness every couple of weeks. Uh,
Right.
we don't have a lot of help. Our families aren't nearby as much as amazing as they are. They just aren't close.
Mhm.
I've got a chronic pain condition I've been dealing with since pregnancy. My very close family members going through cancer treatment. So you kind of like the way I've said it to my husband is like life is just really lifing right now.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
think entering this role, like, without these perfect conditions has also taught me a lot, and it's given me a lot of perspective. Everyone is going through something we don't see. Life doesn't create the perfect conditions for you to succeed or to try something new, but you also can't stop because things are hard. Like, you just have to keep moving. You have to do your best with what
Yeah,
you have. So I think my philosophy has become, like, just keep moving forward.
yeah. And I'm glad that you jumped into the motherhood piece and congratulations.
Thank you.
Both Kaylee and I both don't have kids. I wanna have kids at some point. So, Kaylee is not planning on having kids. I am.
Yeah.
I'm actually just started my egg freezing process, and I just think about all of my friends that are on, like, the kid number 1 or kid number 2 and working full time, like, how do you manage your time? Like, I that just must be so hard.
I know. It is hard, and in some ways, it's harder than I expected, and in other ways, not easier, but you kind of, like, you're kind of forced to prioritize. So from my perspective, like, I don't feel like I have to choose between a career and a family, but I do have to
Mhm.
make super specific choices to make them both work. And that comes to like big choices like who you have children with and who you choose to build a life with. Like none of this works. Our whole life falls apart if we're not having frequent and often, like, honestly uncomfortable conversations with your life partner. My husband and I have these conversations daily. Like, I think when I look at the world, women have gone from like 0 to 100 in the workplace, and men have gone from like 0 to 50 in the home. And they're doing a lot more than the generation of dads before them, but they're still doing more. The equality in the home is not comparable to the equality in the workplace. We've established equality in the workplace. We haven't established equality in the home. So, you know, like I've got an amazing partner. He's like the most supportive. He's my biggest cheerleader. He's the best dad. But since I've gone back to work, we're having this conversation constantly.
Mhm.
There's no default setup. Neither of us are the
Mhm.
primary parent or the primary earner. So we're like constantly recalibrating how we split work, parenting, life. Yeah, that's a big part of our daily conversations.
Yeah. And did it if you don't mind me asking, how much time were you able to take off for maternity leave?
I actually took a full year.
Amazing.
Yeah, which is nice. I know
Amazing.
it's like not as common in other countries, but Canada is really great, and I was able to take a full year.
That's amazing. I'm
Yeah.
so happy you were able to do that. Yeah, been living in this US for 13 years, and the standard is like 10 weeks, which is
I know.
crazy.
Honestly, I can't even imagine. Yeah, and it's like you just don't know what's gonna happen either with pregnancy. Like, I had injury. Like, it was I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That time was, like, really valuable.
I'm so happy that you had that, and honestly, that's like Canada is just the best for all things maternity, which is
Yeah.
amazing.
I think it makes you better at your job too. Like, when you do come back, I felt ready. I felt like I was ready to have that part of my brain engaged again. I think I would have done way worse if I wasn't ready.
Mhm. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And for any kind of woman that's listening that feels maybe she has to choose between, like, ambition or family, what would you tell her?
I mean, again, I never feel like I have to choose. I just feel like I have to build my life around being able to manage both. Similar to what I said in the last question, I really think that the person you're building your life with is like the most important piece, and especially as a woman. And if you're married to a man or you have children with a man, it is a different dynamic. And I think making sure you have really strong communication because it's constant and you need to be aligned. And then the other piece of advice I think is I was talking about this with a friend like 2 weeks ago and it really landed for me is she was saying I have to figure out which balls I can drop. Like there's so many balls in the air. You can't keep them all in
Mhm.
the air.
Mhm.
Something's going to drop and you have
Right.
to figure out which ones you can drop right now. And it doesn't mean you won't pick them up again later, but like for me right now, my friends, I've got the best friends in the world. Like they're so supportive. Doesn't mean I don't see them or I never talk to them, but I think they kinda know, like, given my current life situation, I'm probably not gonna be as attentive as I normally am or, able to attend everything or remember all the details I would normally remember, and, like, they're giving me grace through that. I'll give them grace when the time comes for them to drop the ball, but I think knowing that something's gotta give.
Yeah. Do you work after you put your child to bed? And, like, when you leave the office, for instance, like, how do you kind of balance both, like, back at home?
Yeah, it's unique to being a parent, I'll say, probably not just a mother, but a parent. Like, I gotta get my kid by 5:30 on the dot. Daycare closes. So I can't have meetings past 5. And a lot of my role is meeting with people. So it forces me to be really efficient during the day because realistically, I can work before 9 and after 5, but a lot of my
Right.
work has to happen during work hours with people.
Yep.
So from 9 to 5, I'm making sure like I'm extremely efficient with my time. I do work most nights when I put him down in some capacity, not like hours and hours of work, but I'm always on Teams. I'm always doing like prep for the next day, making
Mhm.
sure my inbox is clean, like tasks. Task management, I kind of reserve
Right.
for night. But 5:30 to 7:30 PM, like that is my dedicated time with my kid. And it's so precious to me. I have, maybe an hour in the morning with him before drop off and 5:30 to 7:30 at night before he goes to bed. And that time is very dedicated to him. So I try not to look at my phone. I try not to be on my computer. And I tell my team that they know like 5:30 to 7:30 is me being a mom. And that allows me to like really focus with him. And then when I'm at work, I can really focus on work.
Turning back to, like, kind of your role in your at your company, what do you think has been, like, your favorite part now running, like, a completely global team?
Yeah, running a global team is really fun. I haven't done it since I ran our BD team. When I was doing sales, it was North American. And mostly in the States. So running a global team is really interesting. First and foremost, I think you get to lead a group of interesting people with different perspectives. And, I work a lot with people in London and the UK, and even, we now have an office in India. And it's just cool to see like so many different people with different ways of thinking about things. And then on our customer side, our customer base is very global. So that part is interesting for me because we get to be a part of so many global companies and their success. So that part's really cool.
Amazing. And I have to ask, how have you guys like implemented, or it sounds like you're AI first. How do you kind of like stay ahead of the curve, or how is like AI like totally integrated, I guess, internally and externally in your organization?
Coming back from mat leave, I came back in the fall of 2025. So 7, 8 months ago. And it had felt like, oh my God, so much has changed in this time with AI. But I thank God I came back then, because from then till now, it has been 20 times more. Like everything with AI is
Yeah.
exponential. We know this. So what used to be a month is now like a day. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel happy and grateful for when I came back, because I don't feel behind. But yeah, internally, I mean, it's a part of our everyday life. And we encourage people to use it in a way that's, enhancing productivity, enhancing the way you think, like pushing you to think differently, and then automating like meaningless tasks that really you shouldn't be spending time on. And then within our product, I mean, it's interesting because within our industry, AI has been treated as an add-on to the product.
Interesting. Like, do you guys charge for it, or is it just like included?
So historically within our industry, it's like you buy an agent or you buy,
Okay.
so it goes alongside your financial planning process. But Vena now, like AI is our platform. It is ingrained in the platform. And then, this is getting like into the nerdy weeds of our industry, but because we have an Excel interface, we can work with all the LLMs like Claude. And so that's really exciting for me. And it like really secures our position as well. Obviously, AI can be, the pace of change can be scary. A lot of software companies are thinking about like, where do they fit in this market? And for me, because of the decisions, we made long ago to embrace Microsoft and to embrace Excel, it's really paying off for us now. So that is cool to be part of and to be part of the journey and like actually forming our position and our product roadmap and how our customers are going to get the most value out of it. Like that's really cool to be a part of.
For sure. I'm curious, did you guys have to do any layoffs or anything like that?
No, we haven't had to do any layoffs. I think we're always like looking at ways to get more efficient, but I wouldn't tie that to AI. I think that's
Hmm.
part of being a startup. And we grew extremely fast, but we've like pretty much maintained our employee base for a couple of years. We're probably about 750, 800 employees now.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
That's
It's
really,
been
really
really great.
amazing. What do you think your leadership style is if you kind of had to kind of choose one for the people that are working for you?
I know. It's so hard to describe yourself. I would say I try to balance empathy with accountability. I think if you asked anyone on my team, like they would say I'm highly empathetic, but I also have really high expectations for my team. I think it's important to have that balance. So I care deeply. I will do anything for you. If you're on my team, I will make sure my team is set up well to succeed, but I expect the same in return. And I think I don't necessarily aim for people to feel like super comfortable, and not in a sense like I want them to be comfortable to come and talk to me and tell me if there's a problem, but I want people to feel stretched and like a little bit of discomfort into growth. It's my goal to push you to the next level.
And as you were kind of climbing your way up that ladder, did you have any mentors like at the company or other people outside that you were kind of looking to for advice to kind of get to where you are?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's sounds funny, but my dad has always been a huge mentor for me professionally. He's had an incredible career. He's also my dad, and he's a really good person. So he started his career in sales, and he's had this amazing career. And I think I get the benefit of his business side and feeling very aligned with him. And we have similar personalities too, so that helps. I feel like, he understands me, and I also implicitly trust him from both a business perspective, but I also know, like without a shadow of a doubt, he has my best interest at heart. He is never thinking about anything except what's best for me. And so he's my go-to. And then I've had a number of mentors within my company, or, advocates/mentors early on. The two VPs who hired me, I remember coming into this role and feeling like intense imposter syndrome as a BDR. And just entering tech and finance, I didn't feel like I'm not a tech savvy person. I don't have a finance background. And they had so much belief in me, so much conviction in me that it bolstered my own confidence. So I think, yeah, it pushed me to try things. And honestly, my boss now, he's amazing. He manages a very stressful job with this like kind of unshakable calm. And he's also, again, and this might be a little cheesy, but he's a really good person. I think when I look or seek out people who I want to learn from, I also want them to have a really strong moral compass. That's like non-negotiable for me. If I'm going to learn from you, I need to know that you're driven by like doing what's right and by having that really strong moral compass as the basis for decision making. So I would say all those people have that in common.
Amazing. Amazing. And as you're like looking forward to kind of like what's next, I guess professionally and personally, like what are you mostly excited for?
I know so much. I'm really excited about my new job within the company. I've been here 10 years. So to get an opportunity to do something that is completely new, a completely new challenge for me, especially at this time in our industry, like the whole industry is changing. And so to be at the front lines of it feels so exciting. And it feels, I think about what it would have felt like at like the start of the internet.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like,
exactly what it feels like right now.
yeah. And that's so cool to be a part of. Like these are career moments and we're going to talk about them one day. So it's wild. It can be really scary at times. It's extremely challenging, but it's also cool to actually like participate in it, be a part of forming this new working world rather than just being like on the sidelines. Then outside of work, I'm focused on giving my kid the best childhood possible. I think despite, working in tech, sometimes the fear and anxiety of the world we live in, it does get to me. I think that stuff does affect me a lot more since becoming a mother, because you start to think about like, what does the future of our world look like for my kids? And it's very easy to spiral. But I do try to remember like the way we can make a difference is through being a good person, through making new little good humans who make the world better. And like, regardless of what's going on in the world, I always remind myself, like, my kid deserves to have the best childhood. And joy is the spice of life. We
It
have
really
to figure it
is.
out.
Yeah, totally, totally. What do you do in your life to like relax, or is there anything you're reading right now that you would recommend and like share with the listeners?
Yes, I am in a book club, and that is like a religious, never miss book club. My husband knows that part is part of our life planning. I never miss book club, and
Love it.
it's really small. It's only 4 people, but I read like every night. Not a lot, but before bed I read. I also try to like see my friends and family as much as I can and try to like take the pressure off of optimizing myself. I think that was something before I had kids where I was like, every free moment I have, I want to be in the gym or listening to this or like reading a self-help book. And now I'm kind of like, I want to read fiction that I like and enjoy. And if I have free time, like I want to go for a walk and listen to a podcast, like maybe I'll learn something, but I'm not so focused on optimizing every moment of my life. I'm really focused on like finding joy in those like everyday moments.
Amazing. I love that. For in your book club, what are you reading right now?
We're reading a book called The Elements. I can't remember if it's called The 4 Elements or The Elements. This is the problem when you read a Kindle because you never see the title page.
Right.
But it's by John Boynton.
Amazing.
He wrote one of my favorite books, The Heart's Invisible Furies.
Amazing.
And this book is incredible. It's heavy, but it's so good. I'm like halfway through. It's really, really good.
How can we like find you online, LinkedIn, or should we go to your website? What's best?
Yeah, my LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. It's Lauren Chisholm, Vena Solutions, Vena. And
Perfect.
that's it, really. I'm kind of, it's another thing after becoming a mom. I'm sort of off like social media, but professionally, yeah, LinkedIn's the best place to find me. And I do try and post there.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lauren. Really appreciate you coming on. And thank you for sharing all of your insights. It was so helpful.
Thank you, Sarah. It was an awesome chat. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to the Career Capital Collective podcast with Sarah Robson and Kaylee Gaspari.
We hope you feel inspired and empowered to take charge of your career and build the life you truly want. Follow us on Instagram at Career Capital Collective.